Good morning, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for our first event of 2021. This is great, and we're so lucky to have you guys. And before we begin, I just want to thank the panelists for joining us for our first event and sharing their insight and giving their much-needed advice. And now I'm lucky to present Alison Moraga, who helped put this panel together and will be serving as your moderator for today.
Thank you, Isa. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our first virtual panel of the year. My name is Alison Moraga, and I form part of the Professional Development Committee, along with co-chair Elizabeth Nickerson, who's with us today. And we're very excited that you can join us today as we've prepared a very insightful panel with key experts in the PR recruiting sector. They'll be covering topics ranging from the career sites that you should be browsing to tips on how to excel in your next interview. I'll be addressing select questions to each panelist, and with that, I'll hand it over to our wonderful panel to begin introducing themselves. Dora, would you like to go first?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, everybody, for being here. My name is Dora Canals, and I am the talent manager and head of diversity initiatives at RBB Communications. I have been recruiting for about, I would say, 15 years. I do both general market recruiting, diversity recruiting, but it's all the same. It's all, we're after great people. Just really happy to be here with all of you. I'm hiring, looking for an AAE, bilingual, Spanish, English, and an AE. I just wanted to get my plug in early enough, but I'm delighted to be here, and I am excited to learn from all of my panel co-panelists today. Thank you.
Nancy, do you want to go next?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. And thank you so much to Ali and the PRSA team. So my name is Nancy Cammarata. Currently, I am a senior recruiter for a large e-commerce company based in South Florida. So I've actually been recruiting for about 7 years, and I actually got my bachelor's from FAU, go Owls, in communications. So a large part of what I do is not only do I do recruiting for my company, I also do a lot of consulting on the side, resume working with a lot of job seekers, especially now with everything going on. I really try to hone in on just putting your best foot forward, making sure your resume's up to date, really great tips on how to network and really meet some potential people. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here today and kind of share some tips.
Awesome. And then last but not least, Daniela Tejeda.
Hi, everyone. I'm Daniela. I work at Newlink Group. I'm a senior HR generalist here. So I do a lot of recruiting, but I also do all of the employee full life cycle within our Miami office. So I'm in charge of getting you to work at Newlink and getting you to stay to working at Newlink, right? I'm really excited to be here. I believe this year our industry is going to get a lot better. So definitely hiring is something that is going to be happening a lot.
Wonderful. Alrighty, well, thank you for the introduction, ladies. So we're going to start off with our first question, which is going to be addressed to all three of you, which is what immediately stands out to you when vetting potential candidates for a PR role? Daniela, do you want to go first?
Sure. So to me, the first thing, the first way for you to meet a candidate is through their resume, right? So I believe having a resume that showcases a little bit of their personality, that's a little bit creative, organized, easy to read, that's like the first big thing. And then what the resume actually says, right? So when we're talking about, let's say, entry-level professionals, like students that are fresh out of college, I do think experience is really important, and I don't mean experience like on a professional setting, because of course there are recent graduates, but having experience working in a nonprofit or involved in an organization within their university, or doing like any sense of them doing networking, working in a team setting, building connections, that's really important in PR. I think definitely stands out. And another thing that stands out, but like not in the way you would want to, is when we see like typos, errors. So I think it's really important for everyone who's looking for a job to put a lot of time in their resume to make sure that it's like perfect. Because I mean, you know, a typo can mean the difference between getting a job or not even getting an interview. So I would say pay a lot of attention to that.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Dora, do you want to share next?
I second that emotion. Everything Daniela said is absolutely true. Absolutely, typos and things like that could totally blow you up. Because if you're not showing attention to detail now, when we're in the honeymoon phase or trying to date actually, then it's never going to happen. So that's what we read into it. We're not trying to be harsh and say like, oh, she got a typo, you're out of there. So anyway, yes, it has to be creative, streamlined, easy to read, and you need to know how to showcase yourself, leverage all of the clubs and nonprofits you've worked for, pretty much everything Daniela said. For me, working at an agency, what's big for me and what I focus mostly on is, do they have agency experience? So my recommendation to folks that want to work for agencies is start doing it at the internship level, because even when I'm hiring for an internship, if there's someone, a candidate that has a previous agency internship, they're more attractive to me as a candidate. So I know it's hard when you're just graduating. Do I want to work in-house? Do I want to work agency? Try to figure that out sooner than later. So try out an in-house PR position and try out an agency position as soon as you can and make a decision. Because at least for me, and I know other folks that recruit for agencies, it's such a different animal. The agency dynamic is so different. I mean, it's not less busy. You're super busy in-house too. It's just a different kind of thing. There's obviously, if you work at an agency, chances are greater that you're working more across different industries, a lot of different clients. So you have to learn a lot about a lot of different things, versus in-house, it's usually one product, one network of folks. So you can take a deeper dive and get better and better the longer you're working for that company and within that industry. So folks that are working for an agency, first of all, have to have that little bit of like, okay, I'm crazy gene or something, because you're going to have to manage a lot of things, haggle back and forth, and be extremely organized and make sure you keep everything in the correct buckets, and that you budget your time accordingly, that you're not over servicing one account over the other. So again, going back to what I first look at, that agency experience for me as a recruiter at an agency in the moment. I've worked for many different industries. I've had, you know, different focuses. I've been in-house and I've been working at agencies. So I could tell you it's really different.
Awesome. Nancy, do you want to share next?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do a lot of high volume recruiting. So I look at probably close to a couple hundred resumes a day from all different types of careers. Number one, cannot stress this enough, make sure your phone number is correct. You would be surprised. We call people that the phone is out of service, or the voicemail is not set up, or the voicemail is full. Right off the bat, that right there, that's really going to deter you, or deter you, sorry. You know, and then I see people with these email addresses, you know, I mean, and I feel like I don't have to stress this to this group here. You guys definitely seem very professional, but you know, we see these like wacky email addresses that are like sexy mama at AOL. Your email address needs to be your first, last name, maybe an initial. That is it. Keep it professional, because that right there, that's what we're going to see. You know, Daniela, Dora had mentioned a lot about, you know, typing errors. You know, spell check is your best friend. You know, don't be afraid to use it. The best is when someone says, you know, I have great attention to detail, and then the next sentence, there's a bunch of errors. So that right off the bat, I'm like, I'm not a fan. And then something else that I noticed as far as resumes, you'll tend to see a lot of like very long resumes that are a few pages long, that where all of their past experiences, it's like they're repeating the same sentence, but you know, just like, it's like they're trying to meet almost like a word minimum in an essay. Your resume should be one page. Each of your past experiences need to be about 3 to 4 bullet points. You know, keep it simple, sister. It does not have to be this whole Because I'll be honest with you, as a recruiter, when you're looking through so many resumes, you are not sitting there reading paragraphs. You are doing a quick skim to make sure that they meet qualifications. Keep it simple, keep it straight to the point. Little known fact, a recruiter looks at a resume for about 3 seconds, 1, 2, 3, before they can determine whether or not they want to move forward with this candidate. So that's really going to be your first, that's going to be like your first presentation, especially in a communications field. Don't be afraid to be creative with your resume. There's so many awesome templates out there now. But as long as it's professional, feel free to even put your if it's a communications role, your headshot can be right there, on your resume. That way it really does stand out. Speaking towards this is more for like entry level people on this call that maybe, they're really interested in getting into PR for the first time. I think that's something, that Ali can agree with, Daniela, Dora. The number one thing I always ask people is, why PR? I feel like sometimes you can be under the impression that it's a very glamorous role, that there's a lot of, oh, I'm going to be dealing with this awesome company. And, when you're first starting out, it's not always going to be very glamorous. Sometimes it's a lot of computer work, right? Sometimes it's a lot of behind the scenes things. Sometimes you're coming into a company where maybe they had some controversy the year before. So you're going to have a really thick skin. You're going to have to be really comfortable, meeting these deadlines. So, before you kind of venture into PR, are you sure that you really want to be in PR? And it's not like Gossip Girl, it's actually, it's a lot of hard work, but yeah, once we've kind of established that, just making sure that your resume is clean, easy to read, and all your contact information is correct. I think that that's definitely very important.
Awesome. Well, thank you ladies so much for answering that. Sorry, Daniela, do you want to?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to say that, we spoke a lot about, entry-level professionals, and I'm sure there's people here who have more experience. In that case, I think it is really important, if they have experience in an agency, to point out like the clients that they have worked with, because that can give you like an idea of all the industry that they have had experience, also their accomplishments, and something that would give us, a sense of how they work, what they can do in the role. I think that's also really important. Not just copy bullet points from a job description, but more show us what you can do or what you did in that role. I think it's really important for everyone to point out.
Yeah, absolutely. So after the vetting process comes the interview process. And Daniela, we want to know, what do you think are some of the key questions that a candidate should be asking during the interview process?
To be honest with you, I have had over the past 2 years, I want to say, the candidates asking the same questions over and over again, like they found them on Google, how to nail your interview, and then they ask you the same, but you answer and they're like, okay, and that's it. I don't think that adds value to the interview. I think a candidate should be asking questions that are important to them and how they can fit in this organization, how can they succeed in this role, and then use that information to sell themselves. Because they ask me like, how do you describe success in this position? And you tell them, well, you would do this, 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 and that. And they're like, okay, thank you. I think besides asking the question, there should be like a second step. Okay, then if success would be meeting deadlines, let me tell you about this position or this opportunity that I had, this project with crazy deadlines and I was able to meet them. So, if they're going to ask those questions that are like cookie cutter questions, then at least tie them to their experience and how they can add value in that sense. But to me, someone that sounds really interested, ask questions about where the company is going, or, what's the purpose of the company and how can I add value to that purpose? What does the company, or how does the company stand in this subject that's really important to me? I think those are questions that anyone, no matter, the level they're at, should be asking to see if actually the company is a good place for them. they're selling themselves, but the company is also selling itself, you know, and see if we are a good match. So I think those are questions that are really important. Also, I mean, job related, if they have like any questions, I think those should be kept for an interview with the hiring manager who has like a more hands-on experience of what they would be doing. But in terms of HR and the first approach, I would say questions that help them realize if this is the right company for them, and that show us that they are really asking because they really care, and not just because they read an article saying that you should be asking this and this and that. That would be my advice.
Awesome, thank you. And including their work experience, Dora, do you think that universal skills are a priority when interviewing a candidate, such as their optimistic attitude, creativity, or their curiosity about the role?
Yeah, you know, people that have all of those attributes are always more engaging and interesting, and you want to have those people around you. So obviously that helps, especially in a communications role. You want to have some spark of life. You know, you want to feel that the person is curious, that they like stories, or storytellers, they like to ask questions. All of that is really important to me. Tacking on to what Daniela said, I like when questions show that they've looked at my company, that they've researched my company, that they've gone as far as to see our CEO giving, you know, speeches and speaking to audiences. And, you know, I heard that your CEO is really big on this or that. And I know that you have clients in blah, blah, blah industry. What would you say you could do with an entry-level person that's interested in this? That's like a really complicated question, but it's like tied into, I'm like, wow, I got to put my thinking cap on. Wow, oh, she saw Christine's video. Did I see that one? You know, I love it when they catch me off guard like that, and they know what's going on, or they dive into, you know, the different industries that we work in. They ask questions again that show that they know, you know, we're a 5-time agency of the year. We just won our 5th title in 2020. So I've had smart folks that I've interviewed. Oh, and congratulations on winning your 5th title. You must be so excited. I go, we are, because it's not just about collecting awards and trophies. It's what they represent, that we're creating award-winning work. So anything that can spark that intelligent conversation, and again, give you as a candidate an opportunity to showcase yourself in that and weave yourself back in there. Never lose sight of why you're having the conversation. You're trying to land a job. So to Daniela's point again, when you say, okay, that, you know, getting FaceTime with a recruiter, remember, these are people that looked at your resume for 3 seconds. FaceTime with a recruiter is golden. Be prepared. Be prepared.
Definitely. Thank you for that. And so just backtracking a little bit, Nancy, I know that you have experience with resume templates and resume building, but currently, would you consider cover letters being a key element during the hiring process, or would you rather that the candidate focus more on their resume?
Ooh, that's a good question. Your cover letter is very important. And I cannot stress this enough, you need to have about 10 different cover letters and 10 different resumes. They should all be custom tailored to the specific job and company that you're applying to. You know, listen, they should always be neat. They should always be, you know, concise with correct information. And it definitely will, you know, help you stand out. It'll help you have that professional face. So yeah, it's definitely very important to, you know, make sure that they're both up to date and make sure that they are tailored to the company that you are applying to. That is completely important. Absolutely.
Awesome. Danny, did you want to add anything to that?
I did, and you know, when I learned that I was joining this panel and I got like a few idea of what the questions were going to be, I also asked, you know, my hiring manager, so that we wouldn't have just the view of HR, but also the view of the hiring managers. And I got some that said that cover letters are important, some that said that not really. To be honest with you, me in HR, like Nancy said, we scan through resumes, like 200, 300 resumes per role. So I do not stop and read cover letters. And when I have noticed a lot of them are like really template based, like from Google and stuff, and they don't add a lot of value. And what I would love, and I don't know why candidates are not doing this, especially in this era, why, I mean, they should be adding like a cover video, you know, like a link that says, hey, meet me. And then 15, 30 seconds of, hey, this is me, this is why I'm good at this role, call me. I mean, I might not give you the job, but I'm definitely going to interview you after I see that, because it shows that you're being creative, that you're using technology in a smart way, that you're taking the time to let me know why you're important. And also, it's more visual, it's more dynamic, and it's easier for me to engage with that. And then maybe, you know, cover letters can be, you can maybe send a letter to the hiring managers, just talking a little bit more about experience. But I think cover letters should be reinvented, in my opinion. And another thing that I would rather candidates do instead of sending cover letters would be thank you notes. Like, it has been a long time since I've received like a thank you email for an interview. And I think it's really important. One, because it shows that you appreciate the time that the company has given you. And two, because you can leverage the conversation that we had, to tell me anything else that you forgot because you were nervous, or maybe to come up to my attention again because it has been, I don't know, 2 days and you haven't heard from me. So I would, as a candidate, I would put my attention more on a thank you note than on a cover letter, or on my resume, or on a video, or whatever you want to do, than on a cover letter. But that's, you know, my opinion.
Yeah, no, I love that cover video idea. It helps you stand out. So moving into the,
Sorry.
no,
Sorry
go
to
ahead.
interrupt you. No, I just wanted to add a quick little, you know, Daniela made a really good point. Is every recruiter going to read cover letters? Probably not. A really good thing to do is your objective in your resume. Use that as your intro. You know, if you want to, I don't recommend skipping the cover letter. It does look good, but keep your objective saying, hey, listen, I have a great personality. I majored in this is the type of role that I'm looking for because I have these types of skills. And I think that that'll really, because the objectives can be really generic too. Like, I'm a very hard worker. Okay. I mean, okay, that's fantastic, but that's on every single person's resume. So custom tailor that. And also, to piggyback on what Daniela said, your thank you note after the interview, so important. I once got offered a job. It was between me and 2 other candidates. The hiring manager ended up going with me. This was a few years ago because I was the only one that had sent a thank you note. They should be sent within 24 hours after the interview. So yeah. And just keep it short, brief, and if you want, even put in like a personal note. Maybe you guys had a funny inside joke or a funny conversation during the interview. Feel free to put that back in there. It'll make you seem not like some robotic candidate. They want to make sure they're hiring people. So that was just something that I just thought of.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for that. I think it speaks to being yourself during the interview process. But yeah, so moving into the next question, Dora, I know that we talked a little bit about websites that share the job postings. So besides LinkedIn, what are some other career sites that members should consider visiting throughout their job search?
Get on every job board, because you never know what the recruiter is on. Like, I want to say I tailor it to just PR job boards, but those aren't always where I get my best candidates. A lot of job boards also do scraping. Whatever you post on your career site is going to end up there anyway. So just get it everywhere, and make sure that your dates on your resume. I know I'm kind of going a little off track here, but I want to say, make sure your dates on your resume line up with your dates on your LinkedIn profile, because once those start not looking right, you start questioning the veracity. Is this true? Did they work here 2 years? Are they trying to fill in gaps and lying here? I don't want to presume that, but it happens all the time. So make sure that you are keeping things even. But as far as where you tell everybody and everyone that you are looking for a job on your Facebook page, all of your social media, because you never know who knows who. And don't be afraid to reach out directly. When I post ads on LinkedIn, I always attach my profile. And if folks want to reach out to me, I like to be polite and I like to get back to folks. So the squeaky wheels get the grease. If you want to get a recruiter's attention, do stuff like that. Email them directly, find out what's going on. And one thing I wanted to add to cover letters, I don't read all cover letters unless I'm really interested in the resume and in the candidate. Then if it's tailored, dear Ms. Canals, after reading it, you're like, oh, they found out that there's only one recruiter at RBB, so they addressed it to me. They're tying in, it's brief, it's great, but I'm, perfect for this job because of this or that. I can't wait to hear from you. RBB is like #1 on my list. And I would be so honored, blah, 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 like work it. Yeah. And building on what Nancy said, I am always like gobsmacked at how many people do not have an objective. I mean, that is prime real estate. That is like where your eyeballs go. So give it a lot of love. Show me your AP style brevity and creativity right there. Like pretend it's a test or a skills assessment. Because you don't want to be robotic. You don't want to say things that everybody else does. But if someone's not going to look at your cover letter, like Nancy said, maybe that can be a place where you can grab their attention. And again, it has to be tailored, has to be real, and it has to be something that showcases what's important that you bring to the table that's important to the role. Never forget, you're there to get that job. So don't go off on a tangent. Bring everything back to why you're the best person for this role.
Awesome, love it. And you said something that ties into our next question, which is, do you appreciate it when candidates introduce themselves to you in the case that a position pops up? So let's say you're not looking for to fill any specific role at the time, but do you like for people to send a message on LinkedIn or email you directly just in case?
I don't want to take up all the airtime here, but I do want to say that I'm always meeting people. I'm always talking to folks. Usually if someone wants to talk to me, I want to talk to them. I think it's great to continually pipeline. I'm very transparent with folks I speak with. If I don't have an immediate opening, I let them know that right away so that they don't invest a lot of time if they choose not to. Other folks look at it as, well, I got a recruiter's attention, whether they have an opening now or not. This is golden. Let me go for it. But yes, I think it's really great when folks reach out. Hey, Dora, I would love to have an introductory call. I'm looking for an entry-level role. I see you don't have one right now posted, but I know you do often. So I would love to get on your radar. If you have like 5 or 10 minutes for me, I would just love to connect. I was like, that's a great ask, very direct. She knows I don't have a direct opening. She's asking for very little amount of my time. So why not, go for it.
Very proactive. Danny, Nancy, did you guys want to add to that?
Yeah, actually, we recently, a young lady had reached out to me probably about 6 months ago and was like, hey, I'm actually really looking for some HR roles right now. I recently moved to South Florida. I'm really hoping that I'm able to connect with you. Super polite, really great. I let her know, hey, right now we're not hiring for that role. A few months later, we actually ended up meeting somebody for that specific role. Who did I have in mind? The person that I had already connected with on LinkedIn. We ended up interviewing her and she was great and we hired her. So absolutely always try to connect with people, be cognizant of their time, and you never know, maybe they're not hiring right now. They probably will be in the future. So it doesn't hurt. But I cannot stress this enough. There's going to be a lot of job posting, a lot of job boards out there. You really have to make sure that your LinkedIn is constantly up to date, that you're always looking at it. That's going to be the most important one. Something, especially for somebody in the communications field, have a lot of connections. Have more than that 500. That's really going to help you stand out, because if I'm looking at somebody's LinkedIn and they're going for a communications PR role, I'm going to say to myself, this person knows how to network. This person is not afraid to talk to people, versus someone with maybe, 100 connections. To me, I don't necessarily know if they're going to be serious in the PR world where you constantly have to be putting new things out there. So yeah, so make sure that your LinkedIn is always up to date. You know, you're always connecting with people, you know, posting, always be professional on there. Cannot stress that enough. I've seen some interesting things on people's LinkedIn, you know, just try to keep it work related. Yeah, and always just make sure that it looks good to go.
Yeah, don't put your politics on LinkedIn, that's for sure. Well, you'll be surprised. It's turning into like a Facebook. And that's sad because LinkedIn is very important to me. It's one of my main places where I look for folks. On your LinkedIn page, make sure that it's, you know, beautiful, and make sure that you have recommendations and endorsements from previous managers. You know how when folks ask you for your reference checks, how fabulous if pretty much it's already on there. I'm still gonna ask, but then, oh, Tony, I saw you had some great things to say about Nicole. I just wanted to check in with you. Oh yeah, she's awesome, all this and that. But that gives me already a good feeling about that your references are going to be great. And folks are usually very willing to do that. You know, you ask, you know, hey, and it doesn't have to be because you're leaving. It could be like you've been there 6 months. Hey, I would love an endorsement. I don't know. Actually, no, that may not. It's like, I'll be thinking, why? Are you looking for another job? So let me backtrack on that. But when it's appropriate, ask for an endorsement because it's important. I definitely look at those.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Alrighty. So leading into our last question before we open up the floor for any member questions, what is the best piece of advice that you would like to share with members that are considering a new role this year? Danny, do you want to go first?
Yes. I would say 2 advices. The first one would be, you know, to do your research. Make sure you come prepared to the interview. You know who you're interviewing. You know the company you're interviewing for. Make smart questions during the interview, and just try to be yourself. Show your personality. Be as creative as you can in a way for you to stand out. That would be like the first advice. And the second advice I would give, and I also told this to our summer interns last year, and they said, okay, thank you. I've never heard that. Don't rush into a role just because you need it. I have been in the position where I wanted to start my professional career, or I wanted, you know, to change a job because I wasn't happy where I was. But I think it's really important that you stop and think if this is the role for you, if this is the company for you, if you're gonna be happy there, if it's something that matches your values, your interests, and do not take a position out of desperation, because it's just going to be a bad experience for the company and a bad experience for you, and it's not going to show well on your resume for future opportunities. I would say make a purpose-driven decision when you're applying for a position and when you're accepting a position as well.
Thank you. Nancy, do you want to share next?
Yeah, absolutely. So one helpful tip, you know, especially when you get that, you know, that golden phone screen with the recruiter, you will notice a lot of job seekers will say, oh, I really want to work for this company because I've heard so many great things. So they almost spin it in a sense where they only want to work for the company, or it seems that they only want to work for the company because of the benefits that they're going to receive, such as, you know, just the fame and glory of working for such a coveted company. That right there is going to make you seem like you're not interested in actually helping. A really good tip, if you're interviewing with a bigger company, do some research on them. Find out what kind of things they actually need a lot of help with. Maybe it's a company that their social media presence is nothing. You know, they have no active social media. Maybe someone in a higher up position, you know, maybe put something controversial or tweeted something bad online a year ago and they came under heat. Find out, and when you're on the interview or you're on the initial phone screen with that recruiter, say, hey, you know, I really would love the opportunity to come to your company because you know, I noticed, you know, you guys really could use some help in the social media department or in the Twitter department. And I'm really good at doing X, Y, and Z. This is where I really excel at. And that's really going to show that you are so interested in going in to help the company as opposed to the benefits that you're going to get. And another thing that I really want to hone in on is interview burnout. There was a period in time, 2018, when I was in between jobs, this was my old previous life in marketing. And I had gone on easily about maybe 15 in-person interviews. Remember in-person interviews before COVID? And then I'll never forget one of my final interviews for a very large marketing company. I was so burnt out. I had showed up to this very professional place in a polka dotted miniskirt and some kind of weird sweater. Just because I had gone on so many interviews in the prior weeks, I was just so completely burnt out. And it was, and I'll never forget this, it was a like a group interview. All the other people there had on, the blazers, dress pants, everyone had their hair, makeup looking perfect. I, on the opposite, looked like I had just rolled out of bed. Because, I was so, at that point, I really just almost sort of gave up on the whole job market. I know it's tough, and I know especially, coming from 2020, it was a really hard year. Treat every single interview, every single phone screen like it's the first, try to avoid that burnout. Always just, listen, drink some water, calm your nerves, and just be professional, know why you're going in there. But yeah, I know it's not always easy, but just definitely always make sure you're on your A game. Never let them catch you sweating, pretty much.
Definitely, yeah. Self-care throughout the process is definitely very important. Dora, did you want to go next?
Yeah, never forget that you're there to land that job. A good recruiter is very disarming. She makes you feel comfortable. He or she make you feel comfortable, but you have to be on your toes. I don't try to trick anyone, but you have to remain professional. Like when they ask you, what do you do in your free time? Or what do you, any of those open-ended questions, your goal is to land this job. How can you tie that back in? So maybe you have 3 or 4 things. Like I like to do arts and crafts, but I also like to read, and reading is probably going to be more relevant to this job. Like make sure I love to read. I'm an avid reader. I love to read all of the, trade publications. I love to know about the trends. I belong to a bunch of blogs, and whenever I can, I just love to read. And I think it's really important to stay on top of stuff like that. So this is something you genuinely like to do, but it ties into the job. So make sure that you don't go off on a tangent, stay focused, and don't ramble. Be focused, answer the question. That's really important. Sometimes people can ramble and not answer a question, and then stop talking and let the person interviewing say, oh, okay, well, that's great. And maybe ask a follow-up question. So just kind of be present and in the moment. And I know this is a big ask because nerves kick in and you're nervous, but just listen, do more listening probably than talking. And when you talk, make sure what's coming out of your mouth is strategic. It's about the question, and it's about tying in what you're bringing to the table and how that makes you great for this role. And finally, if you know the company's overall objectives, like all of our departments know our company's overall objectives, and they're all about how their neck of the woods supports our all overall objectives. So like both Daniela and Nancy said, just make sure that you know what's important to the company, where they're going, and how you're going to add value to that. It's not rocket science.
And don't ramble, like Dora said. Do not answer the question and then let them talk. Cannot stress that enough.
Mental note. Alrighty, well, thank you so much, ladies, for sharing your amazing and super helpful insight. We don't have a question, but this is more of a comment from Megan Ondrzik, and she said, thank you for organizing and sharing your insights. It was super helpful for her. Alrighty, but if we don't have any other questions from the members, did want to share that on January 26th.
Someone has a question.
Oh, yeah?
All right. I didn't know we had to.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Thank you guys for your time, by the way. For positions that are, or companies that have high volume applicants, do you guys use a software to scan resumes for keywords? And if you do you recommend using like a Microsoft Word simple template just to work with the software, or do you recommend still like a creative template design? Just
Um,
specific to
I'll
resume.
answer that for you, Nicole. So the company that I work for, it's very large e-commerce. For one role, easily 200 to 300 applicants. So, as far as software, I mean, I would love to see a software that just gives me a resume that is custom tailored to what I'm looking for. I would pay $1 million for that. No, we're looking at almost every single resume. This is what you're gonna do. Make sure your resume matches a lot of keywords that are in the job description. Okay. Make sure that you have the experience that we're looking for. You know, I've posted jobs that require 10 plus years of experience, and I have this, you know, person coming in who's, you know, been working for 6 months in this role. I mean, right off the bat, that's going to be an instant rejection for me. Another thing that will help you stand out is for larger companies, if you can, as soon as you apply to this role, email the HR to that specific company. Say, hey, my name is Nicole. You know, I had just applied for this role. You know, I'm really interested in it because X, Y, and Z. I just really wanted to match a name to multiple resumes that come in. And then even attach your resume. That will so help you stand out against 200 or 300 other applicants. You know, and I mean, you know, back in the, you know, old days, I used to actually call the company and say, hey, you know, my name's Nancy Cammarata. I just applied. I don't recommend doing that now, but definitely email the HR, connect with them on LinkedIn, send them a LinkedIn if you know that that's the specific recruiter. If you don't know who the specific recruiter is for a job posting, email the HR company, email the HR to the company. It will definitely help you stand out, Nicole. But there's not a special software, or at least we don't have it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, so we have
Keywords help, you know, for example, LinkedIn select like a few candidates to stand out. They would like give you some recommendation of candidates that would work for the position. And maybe if you have like a big database and I'm just looking for someone that's already on our pipeline, I'm going to be looking for X, Y, and Z experience, and I would use keywords. But it's not, I mean, but if I'm actively looking for a job and I'm getting resumes like consistently, I'm not using keywords for anything either. So just make sure, yeah, they match to whatever the company is looking for, but don't focus on that, you know, as thinking that there's like a robot saying, no, this one doesn't have Word. Let's
Yeah,
discard
that's
her.
the feedback I had received through an MBA program I'm doing, but since our industry is so creative, I kind of didn't really want to do a very simple template, but I wanted to hear from you guys and see if that was really, you know, resources you guys were using or not. So it's good to hear from you guys.
Mhm.
It depends on the role. If you're going for more PR communications, keep it creative. If you're going for something a little more maybe like engineering based, I don't want to see a bunch of fun designs and things like that. That's or maybe not engineering. You know, it really depends on the role or the industry that you're going for.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, thanks guys.
And if you're going to reach out to folks in all these direct ways through LinkedIn, if you're reaching out regarding a specific position, make sure, like Nancy said, that you know, if my position calls for 5 to 7 years experience, that you haven't been there for 6 months only. So if it's just an introductory call for, that's different. But if you're reaching out, hey, I just applied for this and that, and you're being bold, it's because you got the receipts. You're going to back it up. You're not just going to waste my time. So. Plus, that looks unprofessional. It's like, really?
Alrighty, so we have a question, not a question, but more of a comment from Sari. And she says, it's really good to hear what it's like from your seats, ladies. Thank you. And then we also have a question from Connie Crother, and she says, you mentioned LinkedIn. Do you monitor candidates' online presence? If yes, what impact does it have on your process?
Online presence of other social media or just on LinkedIn?
Yeah, she says everything, social media as well.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm checking out, I Google folks, and if I end up on their Facebook page, I understand that it's social and it's a different environment. It's not your LinkedIn page, but you still want to see that they have enough common sense, that they don't have anything racy, or that's going to not make them look like a serious contender for a job. But again, I look at it with like a grain of salt. I know this is different. This is not LinkedIn. I'm not looking for people to be real serious and stuff like that. But there's a difference between fun and crazy, and just try to portray the picture that you want folks to know of you. And the internet is forever. And if you don't want it seen on a billboard in Times Square, then don't put it anywhere. Don't put it on your Facebook, on your Twitter, or whatever, any social media that you're using.
Well said, Dora. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody, if you haven't been told before, make sure that your things are set to private, or sometimes you're applying for a role where they do need to see your social media. They need to see your Instagram prior to you even landing an interview. Just clean it up. Like Dora said, nothing controversial, should just be very, I mean, we know in your spare time, you're probably not, looking at math problems or what have you, but, just keep it very, just nothing threatening, nothing where a company could see you as a risk if they were to move forward with you. As far as LinkedIn, I don't think that any recruiter has the time to, keep tabs on a candidate's, LinkedIn, but we can see what you post, we can see if it's unprofessional or not. But a lot of things that we see on LinkedIn are just people inquiring about jobs and job postings. So yeah, I mean, as long as it's professional and nothing too risky, yeah, I think you should totally be fine. But just know that they are going to be looking at that. So
and on LinkedIn, on LinkedIn, where you could see the folks' activity and what they've liked and what they've shared, that also gives us insight. Oh, she thought that was valuable. Oh, she put a lot of stock in this. Oh, that's cool. She's interested in this and that. So that's another area where we're looking, or at least I look at.
Awesome. Thank you. She has 2 more questions. Are there other roles aside from PR that you oversee the hiring for?
I do. I mean, Newlink, we started as a PR agency, and we have, grown in our offering. So besides PR, I look for jobs in digital marketing, integrated production, creativity, crisis management, strategic communication. So everything within the realm of communications, not just PR.
Same here. RBP is an integrated communications agency, same as Daniela. I hire for all of those areas: digital, crisis, creative, all of it. Mm-hmm. Even some web developers. We do websites too, so I hire for those too.
Awesome. And then lastly, she has, if they want 5 to 7 years and you have 10 to 15 years of experience, should you exclude the excess years to avoid seeming overly qualified or old?
Never lie. Don't lie.
Yeah, and I would say it's not about the amount of years, it's about the quality of experience that you have. Because, I mean, if you were 5-6 years in a kind of entry-level position with not a lot of responsibilities, I mean, you could have 20 years there, but it's not going to make you overqualified for the next position, right? So what I would say in that case, if you have like a lot of experience and you don't want to overload your resume, I would highlight like the most important or the most recent one, and then just put like a small section that would say other experiences and mention what you have done. But like Dora said, I would not lie, and would also not focus on the amount of year, but the amount of years that actually tie to that position in particular, not as a professional in general.
And building on what Nancy, or Daniela, perdón, said, if you do have like within the stuff that I'm looking for, the experience that I'm looking for, an excess of experience, when you apply to a position that is calling for less, the recruiter immediately thinks, why is this person applying for this manager level role when they've been a director? You just start my wheels spinning in the wrong direction. I would prefer, if I'm hearing from an overqualified person, hey, Dora, I thought I'd just reach out, would love to get on your radar. I know you're hiring for a manager, blah, blah, blah. If you should need someone with a little bit more experience at a more senior level, please keep me on your radar. I would love to talk to you about it. So you got on my radar, and for all you know, like, I really like you. I might go to my chief people officer and say, hey, can we elevate this role to director level? Because I really like this candidate. Does it have to be senior manager? Can it be director? So there's ways of working it, but remember, don't just apply. And I know for a lot of folks, you know, COVID and the job market and all that. So a lot of folks are tempted to apply for anything to get a job. But like Daniela said, be thoughtful about it, be purposeful about it. Don't just take the manager role, even though you want the director level, because that's all there is. There has to be, it has to make sense.
Yeah. Sari said, I was in a seminar where they said 15 years is going to outdate you because of media, etc. Do you guys think that's true?
You know, so I saw that. And I think that this all goes back to keeping your 3 to 4 most recent roles on your resume, you know? It really should not, I mean, unless you've been at the company for, you know, 20, 30 years, which is, you know, it's common. But your resume should really just have your 3 to 4 most recent roles. Anything more than that, I mean, you know, why, I don't even think that that would be necessary. And that's going to be such a long resume. To be honest with you, they may not even know, but I think it'd be great. You know, if I'm hiring someone for a managerial or director role and they have that experience, put that in your objective. You know, I'm coming with, love it, Dora. I'm coming with, you know, 15 plus years, 20 plus years of experience, but keep your most recent roles, you know, the newest things that you've been learning. Because something that you did 15, 20 years ago, you're not going to still be using those skills. Well, maybe you will be, but it's probably, you know, changed a little bit.
I'll be honest, when I see something like that, it does make me go there. Like, oh, so just if you have, like I said, I have 15 years experience in recruiting, but if I'm applying for it, I could say I have 5 years recruiting in the software technology space. I have, you know, so you're kind of making it relevant. I'm not saying that I don't have these 15 years, but I'm putting it in buckets that make sense for this position.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing, when we say tailor resumes, people are like, what are you? Am I just going to invent stuff to match it? No, it's the order that you put it. For example, if I stress something on my job description, make sure that's the first bullet point out of your 3. Like Daniela said, keep it brief, but it's up higher on the list. And if it's something else, it's down lower. So it just, again, tweaking it and making it relevant to my needs, but staying within the truth. And things that are like not relevant, put additional experience down here, like both Daniela and Nancy said. And it takes time. It takes time to do that. It takes time to tailor a cover letter, knowing that the person may never read it. It takes time, but it pays off, because if your resume did pique my interest, I am going to move on to your cover letter. And if it's really relevant and it says, you know, specifically to RBB versus to whom it may concern and stuff like that, you get more points. And if it doesn't, it takes away. It's like, oh, wow, this person is applying for a communications position. This cover letter could very well be a skills assessment that I'm looking at. They missed an opportunity to impress me and they sent me a cookie cutter. So look at things in that way. I understand recruiters have a short attention span and they're not going to read stuff. But if they do get to my stuff, make sure it's worthy of the time invested.
I know that we're nearing the end of our time here, but we have another question from Nicole. Do you prefer to see writing work samples via a web portfolio?
I think a portfolio adds a lot of value. It helps us, you know, realize which candidate might be a better fit for the role. So I would definitely advise anyone, if they're applying for PR or if they're applying for a design position or whatever, to add their work in a link for a portfolio. That would definitely help our work, and also help them stand out within the other candidates that we may have.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Alrighty, so I think that brings us to the end of our first virtual panel. This was so amazing, and thank you ladies so much for your insights. I know that this was of a huge help to all of us. For the remainder of the month, we have 2 more events. On the 26th, we have a resume workshop as well as a virtual networker on January 28th. So more information is on prsamiami.org. And the panelists' information or contact information is in the chat if anyone is interested in copying it right now.
Excellent program. Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you so
everyone.
much for having us.
Daniela, Nancy, thank you for sharing your vast knowledge. I greatly appreciate it.
Bye. Have a great day.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Good luck.
everybody.
Thanks, Allie.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.